the thing is that I know that a lot of spouses are probably listening and are like me in the sense that you're looking at this and you're thinking about this and you're like, the VA market is so saturated. I mean, there's people overseas that will do this for so much cheaper than what I want to charge. But the fact is that the learning curve on this kind of thing is so big, and it's so easy to get to know these programs. Now that I've been doing this for almost 2 years, I can tell you that I've learned over 30 different programs in order to do the tasks that I need to do for my clients.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button and click subscribe. For those of you listening on a podcast platform, be sure to subscribe on whatever platform that is and leave us a rating if you can. The more likes, ratings, and subscriptions that we get, the more we can spread the message and grow our community. So we also have a free Facebook group. It's called the Average Joe Finances Network. Check us out, join the group, join the community, ask questions, and become a part of the team. All of our other social media accounts are listed in our flow page, and we have them in the video or podcast description below. All right. Hey, how's it going, everybody? So today I have Kelly Madden on with us, and Kelly's a virtual assistant, a real estate investor, and a community manager for active duty passive income. She's an Air Force spouse, and she's currently stationed in Japan with her husband of 14 years, Rich, and their 3 daughters, Ava, Lexi, and Evie. When not working, Kelly enjoys horseback riding and volunteering as a key spouse for the 5th Air Force on Yokota Air Force Base. So, Kelly, absolute pleasure having you come on today. We've heard this group before, active duty passive income, several times on this podcast, and I know that they're a group that provides great value to the community. So, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Hey, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. This is, in fact, my very first podcast. So I am super excited and just thrilled to be able to jump on and hopefully provide some value for your audience. So
that's fantastic. And I am honored that your first podcast is going to be with me. So this is fun. As a matter of fact, since we mentioned that group, Tim Kelly was the very first person I interviewed on this podcast. So it's kind of funny watching everything come full circle. It's really fun to be a part of both communities. And so I want to start things off by asking you the same thing I like to ask everybody when we start. And that's, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well, I guess we'll start from the beginning. So I started out as a stay-at-home mom with my 2 older girls when they were smaller. I was a stay-at-home mom for several years before deciding to get my real estate license. So we were stationed at Hurlburt Field in Florida for 7 years before we moved here to Japan. So from 2014 to 2018, I was a realtor with Keller Williams Emerald Coast. So through that, I learned a ton about real estate investing, and being an independent contractor, a 1099. I also learned a lot about the back end of things like that, and learning new systems and being able to do that. So obviously, once we left Florida and moved to Japan, I couldn't, other than referral status, I couldn't do real estate anymore. So at that point, it was, what do I want to do? And so I started just kind of going over in my head. I have 2 degrees. I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in curriculum and instruction. I've never really done much with either. So it just kind of went that way. The move to Japan was my first international move, and it was very overwhelming for me. But I knew that once I got here that I wanted to work, and I wanted to do something where I could have the flexibility to be with my kids. So that's kind of the way that all of this started, one thing leading into another.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and that type of flexibility you have to be able to work from home, especially when you're moving, from the mainland United States overseas to Japan, that's got to at least be a little reassuring that you still have some type of income coming in by being able to do it that way. And, I just want to point out that, when I moved out here to Hawaii, this was the first time I moved out of the state of Virginia, the first time I was stationed out of the state of Virginia out of 15 years, my first 15 years in the Navy. And now I'm getting ready to go on, hit my 19th year this July. So, this move was definitely the toughest one for us. And even though we're still in the States, but it was still a long ways away, it was definitely taxing mentally, physically, spiritually, all that stuff. Right. So, I can understand where you're coming from. And definitely a different perspective, though, from the military spouse, right?
Yes. It's when we first had the opportunity to come to Japan, my husband came home, told me the opportunity, and I said no. I said, absolutely not. Because I was so scared, just because I've never lived overseas before, and it's 6,000 away. Oh, my goodness, 6,000 miles away from our families. And that was definitely a big deal for me. And then that night, I laid there awake forever. And I just sat there and Googled like all of what people were saying about moving to Japan and moving to Yokota. And from what I could see, everybody loved it and that it was an amazing experience. And so I woke up the next morning, I got my cup of coffee and I looked at him and I said, we've got to take it. And so he was like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And that's how our move started. So we told him yes. And then we started prepping for the move. We had a very long time to prep. So that was very different. I think for most people, we had a year to get ready to go. So prepping the kids and everything else was a lot easier than having a very short notice PCS. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that spouses that want to have careers have a very hard time finding work. And that is a huge thing. Or they pick something that they don't like or enjoy because it's transient, right? And so that's a huge thing. And my dad always taught me, you need to be happy in what you're doing. You need to enjoy what you're doing. And so when I got my master's in curriculum and instruction and then started teaching and hated it, it just wasn't for me. God bless all of those teachers, because it has been it's been a ridiculous year, or over a year now because of COVID, and they are just amazing. And I didn't enjoy it. And so I didn't use that degree that I worked so hard for, which was very frustrating to me. But following my dad's advice, it was very important for me to find something that I love. And with our moves, military spouse moving with a service member, it's very hard to keep finding positions, especially when you're overseas. Very, very limited. And so I had, going into how I became a virtual assistant, I had talked to a couple of friends of mine who had become virtual assistants. And one of our spouses that used to be in, her husband used to be in the same squadron as mine. Her name is Molly Rose, and she had started a virtual assistant academy. And so I started looking into this because there were a few people in our squadron that had gone through this program and said that it was amazing. And so it was that August of 2019. So that was three months after we moved to Japan, I decided to bite the bullet, pay for the course, and take it. And this course was incredible. You do not have to be certified to be a virtual assistant. You don't. But if you're looking at a way to start your business and to start your business right, the course was amazing. It was through virtualassistantacademy.com. And it gives you everything that you need to get started, including contract templates. It teaches you how you should block your time, what you can do. They even have a Facebook group for networking, which is how I found an an opportunity with active duty passive income was that another VA had said, hey, they're hiring interns here and for this real estate investing education company. And I was like, well, that's perfect for me. I have real estate experience. And so I contacted them. I think at this point, ADPI was only 2 years old at that point. I think they started in 2017. And so I contacted them and I started blogging. I started blogging for them. And so I did that for a while just as an intern. And then they offered to have me as a contracted blogger. So I did that for a while and continued also having clients on the side, such as a lot of my stuff includes social media management. The thing is that I know that a lot of spouses are probably listening and are like me in the sense that you're looking at this and you're thinking about this and you're like, the VA market's so saturated. I mean, there's people overseas that will do this for so much cheaper than what I want to charge. But the fact is that the learning curve on this kind of thing is so big and it's so easy to get to know these programs. Now that I've been doing this for almost 2 years, I can tell you that I've learned over 30 different programs in order to do the tasks that I need to do for my clients. And being able to learn those and also explaining to clients that there is a learning curve on doing these. YouTube, there's so many tutorials on different software programs that you can use. And if you have, even if you don't have, you can learn it. Like the administrative experience of any sort, you can learn how to do it, how to be a VA. It really is an incredible opportunity for me. My girls are 12, 10, and 4. And they are all crazy into extracurricular activities. And I'm able to be so flexible with them to be there and to get them where they need to be.
That's awesome. And you go into a lot of details, right? With, why being a virtual assistant has been, good for you, like with how flexible things have been and everything. But what is it that like flipped the switch and made you decide to pursue being a VA versus what you were doing, with what you have with your degree? Was it strictly because, sorry, let me clarify. Was that strictly because of the PCS or the move to Japan? Or was it, hey, I'm not sure I really enjoy this. I want to do something that gives me a little bit more freedom. Like what is it that flipped that switch for you?
I think the PCS definitely was a huge factor in that, in the sense that, hey, I'm PCSing. I can't be a realtor anymore, like as far as selling over here. And I wanted to get to a point where I could contribute financially. And so I was just looking for options, and this was one of them. And to be able to work from home and have that flexibility, because it was just about impossible for me to do with the girls to do a 9 to 5, especially with him working and TDYs and everything else that every military spouse deals with ever, right? So that was a huge thing. And having the opportunities that I have had and learning the things that I have has been so incredible for my growth, not only as a employee or as a professional, but as a person.
Well, I think the beauty of the whole thing too is, and you called yourself an employee, but you're not really an employee, right? You're a contractor, you're a freelancer, right? You're out there, living on your own terms. So that's, you kind of get away from that a little bit, which is pretty awesome. Now, I understand you did the VA Academy, right? But what else did you have to do to get started when you decided to pursue being a VA?
Well, because I'm an independent contractor, there really wasn't a whole lot as far as like getting the whole thing off the ground. It's making sure that I had my contracts in place and being able to figure out what I wanted to specialize in, I think was one of the hardest things. And really, I don't know that I specialize in a lot of stuff now. I've picked up so much and started out in social media management. And now I'm with active duty passive income. I'm now a Facebook community manager. Never thought that I would go there. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And networking was a huge, huge thing for me to get started. You have to tell people what you're doing and how you can help, because it is so easy to contact somebody and just be like, even friends and family. I have friends that I have literally done virtual assistant work for because they need help. Focus on the client or potential client and find out their needs. Find out what they hate doing and what they're spending their time doing when they could be doing something else. If you focus on that and you know that you can solve that problem, then that is a huge, huge win, not only for them, but for you.
Yeah. So I take notes here as we're going. And that was like one of the biggest things that I'm writing down right now is you're solving a problem, right? So somebody's coming to you, they have an issue or something that needs to be resolved, or it's something that they don't want to do, or they don't have really the time to do. And I'll give you a perfect example. What I'm doing here with the podcast, it got to the point where I can't sit here and edit my, audio and videos all the time because I just don't have the time to do that with everything else I have going on. So I hired a team to do that. Right. And that's been a huge weight off my shoulders. It's been absolutely amazing. I also have another VA that does social media graphics for me because I just don't have the time to sit here in Photoshop and make all these different things and all the stuff that's flashy that gets people's attention and everything. And so that was another need that I had. And that was from a friend of mine who started doing VA services. And they actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you need A, B, C, or D?" And I said, "Why, yes, I need B, C, and D. So let's make this happen." So yes. Yeah. So putting yourself out there, I think is, the right way to go about it, and just the right way to think about things. It's not that you're like, I don't know, it's different. Like if somebody was contacting me with like an MLM thing, I would just, I'd be like, come on, man. Like, we all have that, the high school friend that reaches out to us after, 15 years after being out of high school saying, "Hey, I got this great product that I have a business opportunity for you." As soon as I see those words, I'm like, I'm out.
Right.
But, I start running. But, when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I see you have this, you have a need for this. I have a solution for that need. Can I help you?" And I'm like, "Okay, you've piqued my interest. What can you help me with?" So yeah, I think being able to put yourself out there to your friends, family, your social media is just a great way to keep that train moving forward. Right. So how long have you been a virtual assistant? So I know like the catalyst that got you to jump into it was this PCS move to Japan, but did you do anything before that when you were doing real estate? Or actually, scratch all that. I got a better question. When you were a real estate agent, did you use a VA for any services that you needed as a realtor?
No, I was on a team. So although they did have a transaction coordinator, which was super helpful. So really she was very similar to a virtual assistant. She made things go so much smoother. And when I was a real estate agent, I struggled a little bit with sales, in the sense that once I would get in it, I was totally fine. But telling people that I was an agent, so Keller Williams kind of has this term where it's called secret agent. And that was kind of the way I was, where I was like, I don't want to just like walk around and announce that I'm an agent, which is really what I should have done. So when we're coming up on 2 years that I've been a virtual assistant, but managing, I was on my own there for a little bit and not on a team. I was just independently an agent with Keller Williams. So doing those transactions and knowing what was going into the back end and learning that process was a huge help in determining what I knew I could learn and do as a virtual assistant.
Right on. Yeah. So, okay. So, but you did have a transaction coordinator there that worked in the brokerage. And yeah, so we have something similar at ours as well. And with the transaction coordinator and everything and folks that make the different graphics and pamphlets and everything that we have. So that's, I think one of the most under, I guess, not advertised, but I guess one of the most under or less known things out there that people do is outsourcing some of these jobs, right? Like I was talking about earlier. And, when you realize that a lot of these folks are outsourcing their work, you start to ask the question, well, where are they going? How are they getting this to happen? Who are they talking to? And, again, that can help build you, especially if you're doing a really good job at what you're doing as a VA, getting you some referrals that way, right? And people, sending more work your way. So I know for folks that I've used for different products and services, especially the ones that have done a fantastic job, like I will go write them a stellar review and I will send work their way because they're really alleviating a lot of my stress by taking on some of the jobs that I just don't want to do anymore. Right. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is like the VAs are like an underappreciated, freelancer and contractor, subcontractors that don't get the recognition that they fully deserve, which is why I'm so excited that, I'm able to talk to you about this because, I know what you're doing behind the scenes. I've seen some of the stuff that ADPI is doing and everything, and I know what's really going on behind the scenes with, who's writing the stuff up and doing the work. So I just want to tell you, thank you for everything that you do for everybody, because that's just phenomenal work. And obviously you've had some success as a VA, right? So this kind of ties into the next question that I want to ask you. And that is, what do you feel has helped you become successful as a virtual assistant?
Well, that's a little bit of a difficult question, but just in the sense that there's so many factors that have helped. I think having amazing clients and amazing companies to work for, it has been a huge thing for me. At Active Duty Passive Income, I am trusted and loved and just have an incredibly supportive atmosphere. And that just makes me grow exponentially. And it's so important to enjoy the people that you're working with. And I just couldn't be more thankful for that opportunity to work with that team. And they are just constantly asking you what's next. And it makes me think and it makes me focus on my goals. I think another thing is my husband. My husband has been super supportive up until this. I have been, I don't want to say flaky, but I was very much searching for my thing. And he has been very supportive when I've come to him and been like, I want to try this. And he's like, okay, all right, fine, let's do it. And so now that I'm in this and I love it, it's been a very, very, very big thing for our family. It's, and he's been very supportive of my hours in the sense that I don't really have set hours because it's going to depend on the girl's day and what my day entails. So sometimes I'm working a 9 to 5 and other days I'm working on and off from 7 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night. It really just depends on my day. And not everybody has to do that. I have plenty of friends that block their time and they are cut off when they're cut off. But it's definitely so much better for me to be able to be flexible and get that work done. And the third thing that's really helped me is my consistency. I am consistent in my work. You can count on me to get it done. And it's very rare that I miss a day or I miss a daily task that I'm supposed to do. So I try to stay consistent because that consistency is key in order for my clients to grow their business. And that is my number one thing, because that's what I do. That's what a virtual assistant should do is we work on the things that you don't enjoy and the things that you don't have time for so that you can work on the things that you're good at.
Yeah, right on. So some key things that you pointed out there that I want to just readdress. And the most recent one was you talking about the consistency piece, right? You're consistently putting out a good product. And, the other part of it is how reliable you are with your consistency. And I think that's one of the important things. And enjoying who you're working with too is another thing that you talked about. You're part of a really great team. And, when you enjoy what you're doing and you enjoy who you're working with, it makes it so much easier to get things done because you're enjoying it. I mean, when you're enjoying what you're doing, I mean, do you really call that work? Right. And
right.
The other part is, the amazing support you've had from your husband. I mean, that's fantastic. And I get it, because even with me, like with my side things outside of the Navy, I am very fortunate to have a very supportive spouse as well. Like my wife, every time I say, hey, I want to do this, I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm going to do real estate on the side. And hey, I'm starting a podcast. I know I just did the blog not too long ago, but I'm going to start a podcast now because some of my friends told me I should. And I really want to now. So I'm going to do it. And, every time I get like one of these crazy ideas, she's always like, well, is that what you want to do? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, well then do it. So, I think the only thing that she gets on me about is when I do a little bit too much and I'm spending a little bit too much time away from the family. And that's when I said, maybe it's time to start outsourcing a couple things. And that's when I started doing that, because there was a comment made about, hey, we don't really see you that much anymore. And I'm like, hey, let me fix that. There's a way to fix that. And that's how that started. So yeah, it's again, like I said, what you guys do it can sometimes be very underappreciated, but I'm very appreciative of VAs and what they do and the services you guys all provide. So I guess one of the benefits that you have as being a VA is you get to work from home. Now, I know that your hours are kind of crazy, right? Because, you were explaining how some people, they have their cutoff times and they say, hey, I have these set working hours that I'm going to work on my task from this time to this time. And then that's kaput. But most of the people you're doing work for are on the East Coast of the United States and you're in Japan. So that time difference probably makes working from home just a little bit frustrating. So what's that like for you?
Let's take a brief moment to hear from our show sponsors.
What's going on, everybody? So I am happy to announce that we now have our video and audio editing services live. So whether you're starting a brand new YouTube channel or a podcast, or you're already established, we have services that'll fit your needs. Go check it out, www.averagejoefinances.com/services, and you can see all the services that we have to offer, including our newest audio and video editing. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike Capp from Average Joe Finances. Just want to talk to you today about Prep Agent. If you're interested in learning how to become a real estate agent and being able to pass the test on your first try, check out Prep Agent. Check out the link below in the show notes or in the video description.
Let's get back to today's episode.
One of the things that I really don't do from over here is phone calls because of the major time difference. So I'm not able to do a whole lot of that just because the overlap just is nothing at all. So all of my communications are virtual in the sense that I work through email, messenger, and things like that in order to communicate. And all of my tasks are very virtual based, so that as long as I have my schedule and I'm able to get it done within that time frame, then we're good to go. So I don't have to worry too much about the difference in the time in the time zones. And that has been a huge thing. I mean, and that also has to do with my clients and their flexibility and knowing that I am dealing with the difficulty of being across the world.
That's also important, for you as a VA when you're taking clients on, right? That it's important that they understand that you're not in the same time zone or even the same country as them, unless you're taking on some jobs for folks that are over there in Japan, then that's a little bit different. But I don't think you're going to find too many folks requiring your services over there unless they're a military real estate investor and they need some help and they're overseas.
Right.
So yeah, so that's awesome. And I think one of the things that you have that's really going for you is just, I can tell just by talking with you is how positive you are. And you have a great attitude towards things. And the way that you do your work, you add some of that positivity into it. And I think having that kind of mindset and a positive mental attitude, that's one of the things that helps propel you forward and helps you where you are right now with your current success as a VA. So that's pretty phenomenal. Now, so since this is more geared towards military spouses, right? Because that's kind of how we preface this whole conversation was, hey, you got into this, you got started with this during a PCS move, and you were looking for an additional way to make income, and how difficult that is as a military spouse when you have to go from place to place to place, especially when you're going overseas. So what do you want to tell spouses that are currently frustrated with their job choices or just frustrated with just searching for a job right now, whether they just PCS'd or they've been in the same spot for a while and they just can't find work?
That's a great question. And that's honestly, exactly why I'm here, because I want other military spouses to know that it's not impossible. You can have that remote work, that work from home opportunity, and that flexibility that you or most spouses so badly need. With deployments and TDYs and everything, and the kids, it always gets so difficult. And you can do it. And even if you feel like you don't have any skills, you can build those skills without a doubt. And there are people to help you, and there's courses to help you. And it is not impossible. And more people and more companies, COVID has been awful. But one of the very few blessings that's come across is that companies are realizing that you can work from home and still be productive. And so a lot of people are realizing that, and also realizing the importance and the advantages to having a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially with not just the military spouses that are looking for some other type of or other form of work, but when we look at it from a holistic perspective of what, a lot of these major companies are doing now, when they realize that, hey, yes, you can telework, you can work from home, you can make this happen. Why can't other people focus on doing that themselves as a freelancer, or a subcontractor, or as a virtual assistant, and be able to provide services, or skill sets that they have that they might not even know are needed, right? So I think a lot of people don't realize that some of the stuff that they do, especially spouses, even if it's, little things, that they do in their daily, if they're a mother, their daily things they do as a mother, right? People need that type of reassurance and that type of, skills that people, that they might not realize provide value to others. You can start a blog. You can start talking about what you do. If you're a stay-at-home spouse, you can talk about what you do in your daily chores or your daily, whatever you do to be productive. Like, how do you schedule your day? How is it that if you homeschool your kids, what are you doing to homeschool your kids? What kind of curriculum do you put them on? What type of things do you do that makes it easier for you? Maybe that can help someone else. Maybe you can write about it. Maybe you can offer advice to somebody. Maybe you can coach somebody if you've been doing this for a while and it's something that you're really good at. So I think a lot of people take some of the everyday things that they do for granted when they can turn that into something lucrative for themselves and get an additional income just from doing the stuff that they enjoy doing or that they do every day. So I think that's super important. And I'm really glad to have your perspective on that. And the other thing you had mentioned too is taking courses, that, how education is super important. I mean, sometimes, for some of these, you might not need to take a course, but, even for what you do, you didn't have to take a course, but you did. And it made you more marketable, right? Because you have some type of accreditation, or you have some type of just something else, like a certification, or just something that shows that you've put that effort towards your profession, towards what you're doing. And you're not just, okay, I'm going to wing it and see what happens. You put some thought into it, and, it shows how serious you are in what you're doing as a virtual assistant versus, if I woke up tomorrow and said, I'm going to go be a virtual assistant and be a social media manager because I have Facebook, I know how to use Facebook. It's totally different, right? And you're putting forth that effort. Yeah, I definitely want to say thank you for pointing out the education piece. I think that's super important.
Yes, and I think that even past the foundation course that I took with Virtual Assistant Academy, I've also taken just random courses to increase its skill. So on like Udemy or on Course Envy, they have tons and tons of virtual classes that you can take, and these courses that you can take in order to build these skills that you so badly need. I got a certification in proofreading and copywriting, and that has helped me tremendously with my blog writing. It's been amazing. I've taken a couple courses on social media graphics. Canva is a huge tool for me. It's huge. I love Canva, and they have tutorials all over there. So the education, just constantly learning and making sure that you're building your skills. And it is not impossible. Like, you're going to look at these programs when you first look at them and go, this looks super complicated. You have the ability to learn, and you can be a fast learner. It's not impossible.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. That's fantastic. So we're covering a lot of ground here with what it is that you do as a VA, with not only your services, but also we talked a bit about the education, everything. You also had a career prior to being a VA as a real estate agent. And you also invest in real estate, right? You and your husband invest in real estate. So
yes.
Out of all these different things that you're doing, especially working with a team, right, over at ADPI, what is it that you enjoy the most? What is it that brings you the most joy in your day when you get up and say, you get your cup of coffee and you sit down and you get ready to do some virtual assisting? What's the best part about what you do?
It's definitely, I would say it's definitely the community management part of being a virtual assistant and with being with Active Duty Passive Income. It is just such an incredible community, and the amount of knowledge that is in there is just insane. Like, I think that's part of the reason why I love it so much, is because when I'm in there and I am managing this group, I mean, I think we're at 21,800 members in the group right now. And every time I go in there, I learn something new. And that is so huge for me. And it's the same way with any other group that I manage, where I'm going through and I'm reading and I'm learning so much. And real estate investing has always been a goal of ours, which I think started thinking about it in like 2011, but didn't actually pull the trigger until 2017, which I still kick myself for. You get stuck in analysis paralysis and then you just don't move. And so being able to not only be in a place where I'm happy and I'm learning all the time, but for something that's also going to benefit me and my family, in the sense of I'm learning and being able to invest and learn more about investing and building that capital and that savings and that legacy for my family.
Yes, perfect. So absolutely love that answer, and that whole sense of community that you're talking about. That is, that's one of the things I enjoy about what I'm doing too with my group, is just building a community of like-minded people that are just trying to better themselves and just, crush it either in real estate or the stock market, or just gaining financial freedom, or for a lot of folks, it's just getting out of debt and getting through that first initial step of getting rid of their credit card debt and getting rid of their loans and then looking into moving, their cash into something else, into another vehicle that can bring them financial independence. So that's awesome. Okay. So now I want to ask you, since you said, you guys got started investing, you said in about 2017. So what kind of asset classes do you and your husband currently invest in?
We're a little all over the place right now. We started out with single family homes. So we have 3 in the Crestview, Florida area, because that's where we were stationed for so long at Hurlburt. So they've done really well. And so we started out with single family because we weren't as educated about the multifamily aspect of this. Plus, we have 3 kids. So doing house hacking and the availability of being able to do house hacking in like multifamily really wasn't realistic for us. So we bought these were just rentals. We did not live in them. They were not primaries, but we were able to find foreclosures, redo them, and burr our way into being able to cash flow. So that has been incredible. So which I'm sure anybody listening to your podcast knows, but for anybody who doesn't know, burring is buy, renovate, refinance, rent, repeat. And so being able to do that and to buy low, renovate, cash out, to be able to buy our next investment has been an incredible way for us to build our assets. So after we did that, and after we moved to Japan, we decided to participate in a flip syndication. So we participated in a flip syndication in LA, actually with a good friend of ours, and that turned out really well. It took longer than we expected, but it happens. You just got to roll with it.
Hey, so I just want to ask, what is a flip syndication? I'm pretty sure just hearing the name, I understand what it is, but could you explain it really quick?
So we contributed money into the renovation of a property that had been acquired by a real estate investment company. So we were able to put that money in order to go toward the renovation, which total was like, for the entire thing was like $200,000. So once we did that, they flipped the property, renovated, and then sold. And we were just coming into COVID when the property sold. But it was a good return. So with doing that and not other than putting the money in, I think we came out with about $10,000.
Okay. After. Yeah. So it was basically just a passive investment for you, right? So you guys you put the money towards it, they flipped it and sold it, and you got your cash back with another 10,000 on top, kind of like the little cherry on top there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, that's exactly awesome. Right. Fantastic. And thank you for explaining Burr, because I was going to do that if you didn't. So, because you never know, and this might be somebody's first episode. Who knows, right?
That's definitely true.
And if it is your first episode, go back and listen to the rest of them. Thanks.
Right, definitely. And so we did that, and then we still have our single family rentals now, but we're actually selling one of them because of it is a seller's market, and it makes more sense for us to sell, especially with us trying to get more into multifamily. So our most recent investment was in an apartment syndication. So that's been totally new for us. But the numbers, doing the deal analysis, the numbers made sense, and we decided to jump into it as a limited partner.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you were right. You're all over the place, but you it looks like you took a lot of the steps that people go in that route. You started with the single family homes. Then you got into a syndication flip, which I never heard of before, which is really cool. So that was a neat one to hear about. and now into multifamily syndications, right? So as a limited partner. So I'm trying to get into as an LP on a syndication sometime. Like the goal is this year, I'm gonna get into one or two syndications. Dang it, it's gonna happen. So that's kind of like a goal of mine for this year. So it's really fun talking about that stuff with other people just to see what they're doing. And okay, cool. So now I kind of have an idea of what you guys are investing in. So I guess I want to ask you now if there's any tips or tricks that you would recommend to somebody who is looking to start either as a virtual assistant or somebody who's looking to start their real estate investing portfolio. What kind of tips and tricks would you recommend as a beginner?
Okay. The main thing
I know, loaded question.
So the main thing is going to be, in my opinion, education. Just being able to get that foundation and being able to get organized is going to be the biggest thing to get started. And kind of going through and picking off the things that you're good at. It can be a random skill. Write it down. Write down your skills. Write what you're good at. Write what you want to do. And another thing is creating your ideal client. And this is what the Virtual Assistant Academy recommends, is that by writing down like your perfect client, like what would that look like? You know your limits and the people that you want to work. And that's so incredibly important, like I said, about being able to enjoy the people that you're working for and working with.
Yeah, that's solid.
And so on the second part of that question for real estate investing, it's kind of the same answer. So I really focus on getting to know the different asset classes and the different types of investing, and, networking with people that are doing the things that you want to be doing. You are who you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with people that uplift and are financially successful and who are successful in real estate investing. And it's so important, which is why I just absolutely adore communities like Active Duty Passive Income and Mike, your community, because that's what people do. And you get answers and you get motivation to move forward. And although I do want to say that even with doing the education, like ADPI has courses with doing that. Those are wonderful. I love them and they're a great way to start, but take action. You've got to get out there and actually do it, because it's so easy to read about it and just keep into that analysis paralysis phase where you're like, I don't feel like I know enough. I don't feel like enough. And that leap is really, really hard. It took me a really long time to get to that place until Rich just kind of like threw me into the water and was like, we're doing this. And there were a lot of questions and a lot of what ifs, but it has been an incredible journey. Just get out there, learn about it, and then do it.
Perfect. Yeah, like absolutely. Like you said, take action. That's probably one of the biggest keys to do. Taking action could be signing up for that first course to learn about what it is you're trying to get yourself into. That is taking action. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm not ready yet. I need to wait and this and that. There's so many things you can be doing to better prepare yourself for when you are quote unquote ready. And that's something to definitely keep in mind. So absolutely really enjoyed this conversation with you, Kelly. And
Me too.
I think I had no idea that this is your first interview. So
Thanks. Definitely was. I'm super nervous.
But I have to ask you one more question before we get out of here.
Uh-huh.
And that is, where can people find more information about you? And do you have a website or social media you'd like to share with us today?
So you can find me at, my personal profile on Facebook is Kelly Washburn Madden. And so you can message me there. I do check my message requests, even if we're not friends on Facebook. So that's not really an issue. I also have a Facebook page for my virtual assisting, and that is Kelly Madden Virtual Assistant.
Okay, great. We'll make sure we get those links in the show notes. So if anybody has questions for you and wants to reach out, they'll be able to find you. Again, Kelly, absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on and chatting with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.